Okay, so what if you could invest in a single solar panel, maybe one that's halfway across the world, as easily as you buy a stock? It sounds kind of like science fiction, right? Well, today we're going to look at a new digital key that's unlocking billions, and I mean billions of dollars for green energy. Let's dive in and see how it works.
So let's just start with this massive number, $8.4 billion. Now, this isn't some company's valuation or a market cap. No, this is the value of real-world energy assets. We're talking wind turbines, solar panels all across China that are being plugged into a brand new digital network. It's a figure that points to a pretty radical new way to finance our green future. And believe me, a new way of funding is desperately needed. Because here's the core problem, right? Building the green infrastructure the world needs is incredibly expensive. And traditional financing for these huge solar and wind projects, it's slow, it's super complicated, and a lot of the time it just hits a wall. So yeah, that's the hurdle we need to clear. The world has these really ambitious green energy goals, but the old school funding methods just can't keep up. The big question is, how do we get the money to these critical projects faster and way more efficiently? Well, one company thinks it has an answer, and it's an answer worth billions. And that answer is coming from Jack Ma's Ant Group. Through its tech division, Ant Digital, they're rolling out this incredibly bold solution. They're using their own blockchain technology to tackle this problem head on. And yep, you guessed it, it all circles right back to that $8.4 billion figure we started with. I mean, the sheer scale of this project is just staggering. Ant Digital is connecting over 15 million devices to its blockchain, which is called AntChain. Just try to imagine that. Every single wind turbine, every solar panel in this network having its energy output tracked in real time. This creates a completely tamper-proof digital record, basically a single source of truth for every single watt of power generated. And that trust, that's the key to this whole thing. So you might be asking, how does tracking watts on a blockchain actually translate into funding? Well, the answer is a concept called tokenization. And look, I know it sounds like some super complex tech jargon, but the core idea is actually surprisingly simple, and it's totally changing the rules of investment. Here's probably the best way to think about it. Imagine you want to invest in a big commercial building. Traditionally, you'd need millions of dollars to buy the whole thing. That's a huge barrier for most people, right? Well, tokenization is like being able to buy just a single brick. It digitally slices up a massive asset into these tiny, affordable pieces, which opens the door for pretty much anyone to invest. Now, the technology that makes all of this possible is the blockchain. You can just think of it as a shared digital record book that is incredibly secure. So every one of those bricks that gets sold is recorded permanently and transparently for everyone to see. And because nobody can go back and change that record, it creates the trust that the entire system needs to actually work. So let's put it all together. Tokenization is just the process of turning the ownership rights of a real-world asset, like one of our solar panels, into a digital token that lives on the blockchain. So if you own one of these tokens, it means you own a tiny but completely verifiable share of that asset, and, of course, the money it generates. Okay, so that's the theory, but what does this actually look like in practice? Let's follow the journey of an investment, starting from a physical solar panel on a roof and tracing it all the way to a digital asset sitting in an investor's pocket. Here's how it all breaks down in 3 simple steps. First, every single watt of energy that comes from a solar panel is tracked and verified on the blockchain. Second, a digital token gets created that represents a share of that panel's future revenue. And third, investors can just buy these tokens directly. This completely bypasses the traditional middlemen, like banks, making the whole process way faster and a whole lot cheaper. And you know, this isn't just some futuristic idea or a theory on a whiteboard. This model is already out there, right now, being used to successfully fund major energy projects. It's happening. And the proof is right here in the numbers. I mean, look at these real-world examples. Ant Digital helped one energy company raise over 200 million yuan from its solar assets. Another project raised 100 million yuan to fund thousands of EV charging stations. This is real money, real capital, being funneled directly into green infrastructure. So while Ant Digital's project is seriously impressive, it's not happening in a bubble. It's actually a leading example of a much bigger global trend, creating a whole new digital blueprint for how we own and invest in the actual physical world all around us. So, just how big is this global trend? Well, the total value of what we call tokenized real-world assets, or RWAs for short, recently shot past $28 billion. So yeah, this is not a niche experiment anymore. It's a massive and growing market for digital investments that are backed by actual physical things. And when we actually break down that market, it's pretty clear this isn't just about energy. Tokenized private credit makes up more than half of the market, and US Treasuries are over a quarter of it. Energy and other assets are still a smaller slice, sure, but they're part of a pie that is expanding really, really fast. Now, it's worth noting that while Ant Digital uses its own private system, AntChain, out in the wider global market, the public Ethereum blockchain is really the dominant platform. The key takeaway here is that this isn't just a single company movement. It's a broad technological shift that's happening across a whole bunch of different platforms. And that really brings us to the future potential. As this quote highlights, the model that Ant Digital is pioneering in China, well, it's not just for China. It could absolutely serve as a powerful blueprint for any country that's looking for new, innovative ways to fund and modernize its energy grid. It really democratizes investment and streamlines funding in a powerful new way. So we'll just end with this thought. The technology to turn almost any physical asset into a divisible, tradable, digital token now exists. Today, it's a solar panel, but tomorrow, it could be a piece of a bridge, a share in a forest, or even a stake in some critical research project. The question really isn't if we can invest this way anymore, but what will we choose to build next?